Sarcasm. Y'all tell me, when's sarcasm appropriate in the classroom? Never. Y'all want to know the definition of sarcasm? Humiliating someone in front of their friends under the guise of humor. And if sarcasm should never be used in the classroom, when are we going to make sure we never use sarcasm? We're never going to use it all year. It's a funny thing. I wrote What Great Teachers Do Differently. It all stemmed from a workshop we did several years ago where they brought in a whole bunch of real smart people from around the country, and it turned out they needed somebody to park cars. And they were all there, and they were brainstorming characteristics needed for teachers of the 21st century. And I was overwhelmed by their list because everything they would list, I couldn't do. There wasn't a single thing on that list I could do. It was like in the area of special education, they need to have a lawyer's knowledge of special education laws. In the area of technology, the people need to be able to build a Pentium computer out of a soda can. I mean, all this kind of stuff. And it was really interesting because this group of really smart people of who you'd know everybody's name, I'd be the person you'd know the least likely to know the name of the people in this group. They were ready to bless this list. And I stopped the group before we walked out and I said, I'm sorry. I go, I just don't agree. There's not one single thing I can do on that list. But that doesn't bother me. You know what's the concern about that list? There's not one single thing the best people I know can do on that list. Because you know what we need? We need all our teachers to be like our best teachers. That's all we need. And I can tell you something, folks, that's a lot more accomplishable than anything on this list. And 10 days out of 10 seems like a lot. Don't you all think 10 days out of 10 seems like a lot? Anybody ever had a boss treat you nice 29 days out of 30? Y'all ever forgot that 30th day? Y'all ever going to forget that 30th day? And you're never going to be as close to them. You're never going to be as attached to them no matter what else it is they do. It's every single day we treat every single student with respect and dignity. How come when you're in the hallway in school, you say hi to every single kid every single time they walk by? Do you know why great teachers say hi to every kid every time they walk by? Because it might be important to the student. That's how come they do it. You say hi because it might be important to the student. I never know if this time's the time it might be important to the student or not. It's called treating people as if they were good versus treating people as if they were bad. What happens is so often we treat people as if they were bad, and we got to treat people as if they were good. I'll give you an example. Class is in session. All the kids are in class. Every student is in class. Walking down the hallway are the two biggest troublemakers in the school. I'm not a labeler of kids, but a few of us probably have visions pop to mind. Class is in session. All the kids are in class. Walking down the hallway are the two biggest troublemakers in the school. What do people say to them? What are y'all doing? You all need to get to class. What are you out from? You have a pass? What are you late for? What's going on here? What are you up to? Did you treat them as if they were good? Class is in session. All the kids are in class. Every kid's in class. Walking down the hallway are the future valedictorian and salutatorian, which, by the way, can be identified the second day of kindergarten. I didn't know if you all knew that or not, even if you got a half-day program. Walking down the hallway are the future valedictorian and salutatorian. What do people say to them? Hi, how you doing? Have a good day. Good to see you. Did you treat them as if they were good? And you know what you do to every single student walking down the hallway? You treat every single one of them as if they were good. You know what you say to every student walking down the hallway if class is going on? Hi, can I help you? Was that an insult to the valedictorian and salutatorian? Remember the last time you were in a store and a clerk came up and asked if they could help you? It was a couple years ago in another state. But remember, a clerk came up and asked if they could help you? If you need help, it's like a Christmas miracle. But if you don't need help, it's not an insult at all, is it? Instead, thank you so much. But you know what's interesting about that same store? If there's two boys with their back turned and they have a gym bag and they're acting kind of suspicious, and a clerk comes up and goes, hi, can I help you? Doesn't that prevent them from shoplifting? But you know the difference between that and what are y'all doing in here? The difference is they don't need revenge. You go out to a restaurant with another couple that's not in education, and you say hi to every single person you walk by, and they're going, why are you saying hi to everybody you walk by? And you're saying hi just in case they know you and it's important to them. So anyhow, this kid sitting there, this young man sitting there, 20, 21, 22, and he's just staring, and I kind of smile and wave, and I don't even give it a thought, don't think anything of it. And I look up again, and he's still staring, and I kind of smile and wave, and don't think anything of it. And finally, he gets up, and he comes walking over, and he goes, what's your name? And I'm thinking, Luke Skywalker, Kevin Costner. And finally, I said, Todd Whitaker, and he goes, I knew that was you, Mr. Whitaker. Remember me? And anytime anyone says, remember me, what do you say? Sure, oh yeah, long time no see. Took a while, the lighting in here. Boy, it's been a long time since I've seen you. But what scares you when you say stuff like it's been a long time since I've seen you, you don't know if it's a former student that you had 11 years ago or if it's the plumber that was at your house Tuesday. You know, you don't really know which one it is. I go, boy, it's so good to see you. I can't believe it. He goes, I knew that was you. He goes, I am so glad to see you. I am Bobby Randall. and I had you for your first year as a teacher up in Keytesville, Missouri. Well, you know, as soon as a student says their name, what happens to you? You pull out the little man or the little woman up in your head, pulls out all the index cards, and is going through it, going, Bobby Randall, Bobby Randall, Bobby Randall, Bobby Randall, Bobby Randall, Bobby Randall, hoping to make a hit. Isn't that right? And he goes, I am Bobby Randall. Remember me? Well, I'll be honest, I hadn't remembered I was in Keytesville, much less him. But of course, I pretended. I'm like, oh, it's so good to see you, Bobby. I can't believe it. See, I was the junior high basketball coach and the varsity basketball coach there in the school. It was a small school. And Bobby had told me, he goes, I stayed after class one day and I came up to you and asked if I could come out for the junior high basketball team. Because see, Bobby had only been in Keytesville for 5 years. And if you have a small community like Keytesville and you've only been there 5 years, you're known as the new kid. And Bobby said he came up to me and said he asked if he could come and play on the basketball team. He goes, I wasn't very good at basketball. I only wanted to play so that I could fit in. And he said, and you told me you would love to have me. And I've always wanted to thank you for that. And I go, well, Bobby, I was glad to have you. More the merrier. You did a great job that year. You were wonderful on that team. I really appreciate it. He goes, but remember about 2 weeks into the season, my dad got transferred and we moved. Do you remember that? I said, Bobby, I was so deflated when you moved. I just couldn't stand it. I couldn't even believe it. See, here's my theory. My theory is if you've broken ground, you just keep digging. That's the theory. It's like my theory of driving. My theory of driving is I may be lost, but I am making good time. And so I've learned to kind of keep things up that way. I go, Bobby, I was so sad. You'd done such a great job during that 2 weeks, and it was really a blow to the team, you know, when you left. And I go, it was sad. And he goes, but remember my dad's transfer fell through, and a week later I moved back? And I said, Bobby, I remember looking up. We were in the gym. The light was kind of behind you, kind of in my eyes. I could see your silhouette coming in. And I said, Bobby, I remember thinking, hey, Bobby's back. Everybody, Bobby's back. He goes, well, during the week I was gone, you put in the press offense. And the very first day of practice then, when I came back, you were running the press offense. And he said, everybody on the team knew the press offense, but me. He said, and none of the kids ever really liked me, and we know how mean 8th graders are to each other anyhow, don't you? Even if they're best friends, they're so mean to each other at different times. He goes, and I was ruining practice. The kids were all ticked at me. You had to be mad as a snake. And he said, you stopped practice that day, and you said, wait a minute, guys. It's not Bobby's fault. He wasn't here last week. He couldn't know any better. And Bobby goes, I've always wanted to thank you for that. He said, that day after practice, some of the guys who liked melee stuck around, and you know what they did? They taught me the press offense. He said, I always fit in on the team, and I always fit in at Keytesville ever since then. He goes, and I've always wanted to thank you for that. And I go, well, Bobby, it wasn't your fault. You weren't there that week. You couldn't have known any better. He goes, but there's a special reason that I was so excited to see you. He goes, you wouldn't know this. He goes, but I'm married, and my wife and I have a 7-month-old daughter. He goes, and you wouldn't know this. You may not remember. He goes, but I also have a terrible temper. He said, and I'm a full-time college student, and I also work full-time, and my wife works the night shift. So every day, I have classes all day, I go in and work, I get home, and I'm responsible for putting my daughter to bed. He goes, and you got to understand, every day he goes, I'm just worn out. He goes, I'm just worn out. You know, I'm excited about going to college. I'm excited about working. I'm glad we can do this. I love my wife. I love my daughter. He goes, but I'm just worn out. And he goes, I go in there, and it's time for my daughter to go to bed. My daughter just starts crying, and she won't stop crying. He said, and I put her in her crib, and she just keeps crying. He goes, and I can tell that I'm awfully tired, and I can tell I am tired of her crying. And he said, so my temper will get the best of me. I'll walk into my daughter's room. I'll reach in, and I'll pick her up on that crib, and I'll go, wait a minute. She's 7 months old. She couldn't know any better. He said, my wife, my daughter, and I want to thank you for that. See, there's a reason the front page of my faculty handbook every year had Henry Brooke Adams' quote, a teacher never knows where his influence stops. And Henry Brooke Adams may not have been best in terms of gender equity, but he sure was right in terms of the impact we have. And the challenge is we never know when the glance is, what the word is, what the tone is, the way we act or who we say hi to, and what a difference it makes. And it's every single day we have to treat every single student with respect and dignity.